You ready for this?
You're going to have so many outtakes on this, Roxy.
I think I'll just leave them all in because people love a laugh. That's going to be the whole podcast. It's just us giggling.
It's okay. We got this, girl.
I hope.
Stop laughing now. Right, go.
Go. When we're having a conversation, you're going to look at me, right? But if you're making a point to the people at home, you got it.
Right, let's go.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Book of Kels podcast, where we talk everything about being human. So this week on the podcast, we have a very special guest, as always. All my guests are very special, but you know, this one means a lot to me.
This one's extra special.
Yeah. So this week's guest is Miss Micha Howell. Say hello.
Hi. I get so awkward saying introduce myself, so we're just going with that. We're going with that. Hello.
Micha just absolutely walloped off the microphone, so we're just going to keep going because we've tried to record this intro a good few times now. But if you've been around me and Micha in Bali, you'll know that like 90% of the time we're absolutely wetting ourselves. I don't know what it is, but when we're around each other, we're like two giddy kids. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know.
We literally do not stop laughing, so this is a challenge.
Yeah, if you get through the podcast, like...
If we get through the podcast,
yeah.
Not them.
But I'd say there's going to be some good laughs in this, so I hope you enjoy. But basically, do you want me to introduce you, Micha?
Yes.
Okay, so Micha moved to Bali, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Well, she's here on an extended holiday, let's call it, because she doesn't... Well, I'm the same. I don't really know what my plan is. We're kind of just going with the flow, which is pretty much everybody's attitude out here in Bali, is just like, go with the flow, see where it takes you. There's no pressure on anyone, and we're just kind of enjoying ourselves. But I saw on Instagram that Micha was moving to Bali, or she was coming on an adventure here, and got in contact with you, just slid into those DMs. And I was like, hey gal, I'm out here as well. If you want to meet up for a coffee one of the mornings, let me know. And then we ended up going for breakfast in Soma, and I think it was just...
We literally just bonded, like, it was so weird, and we've been at the hip ever since.
Yeah. It's so easy when you find someone who... Because when we got to talking... So Micha's a PT as well, online coach, and her coaching approach is very similar to mine. And when she started talking about her coaching approach, it kind of made me realize that our values were very, very similar. So it was an instant click, I think, in that like deeper sense of like, okay, we actually like care about our clients, we care about our results.
Move on the same wavelength. Like, it's like everything we think, just the other one is like, oh my god, I think that too. Like, it's actually so weird when we speak. Like,
even when we were like expressing ideas for business and stuff like that, like we have such similar ideas. Yeah. But it all comes down to wanting to help people and wanting people to become more in tune with themselves, their spirituality, and also their health as well. So I mean, it was just instant. And also Micha's great crack, so she has me laughing. Oh, thanks. But I have a question for you. So what made Bali appeal to you? What made you move here, or what?
So it's actually a bit crazy. I don't think I've even said this story to you, but a couple of years ago, I wanted to come out to Bali and volunteer. So I was only like 15 or something. I don't even know if my mum and dad will remember this, but I was looking it up. I wanted to come out volunteer, teaching English to kids out here. I think it was in Ilwood. And I was just too young. Like, I was literally still a baby. So I think since then, Bali was always on the back of my mind. And then throughout the pandemic, after the pandemic, I was seeing so many people moving out here, and life just seemed great. Like, simply, life was just seemed amazing. But I wasn't really in the position to just get up and go. I didn't have a job that I could pick up and bring with me. I would have just been literally leaving everything behind. And I ended up booking this like really spontaneously last minute. I was just sick of being at home. Obviously, I was working in a gym, and I had my online business, and I was like, you know what, if I don't do this now, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to be stuck where I am in Ireland, and I wasn't growing anymore. I wasn't progressing. So I literally booked a flight with 10 weeks notice, and I just left. And the attitude I kind of have towards everything is that if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I could always just get a flight home. But I just wanted to come here to just grow as a person, to be me. And I didn't feel like I could do that at home anymore. I felt like everything I needed to learn at home I have learned, and I needed to move to a new environment with new people and just see what life had to offer on the other side of the world. So yeah.
Yeah. And for the people that are listening, either from back home or anywhere else in the world, where are you from?
Dublin.
What part?
Clondalkin.
Yo! And I'm saying that because... Yes, sir! I'm saying that because Micha sounds like 90% of my family, so it's so comforting. Maybe that's a little bit why we clicked as well.
Like home,
feels like home when we speak. And like, I know my auntie CJ is going to be listening to this, and CJ, she sounds exactly like you. Exactly like you. So if this podcast turns into me going into my Clondalkin accent again, that's just because I'm around Micha too much now.
I've brought it out a little
yeah. Because when I'm around my family, like, my accent intensifies. Well, I feel like when I'm with my family, it's a little bit posher. A little bit posh. That's just English, straight up. But how have you felt since you got here? Because when I first got here, I was very overwhelmed. I thought I was going to come to Bali and be on top of the world, but actually the first month was like really hard for me. But I'd be interested to see how you've been feeling.
So I've actually been the opposite. Like,
thriving.
I think everyone comes here and gets that overwhelming feeling, but I've just felt so happy since I got here. Like, the minute the plane landed, I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. It's like I just got that feeling through my body that I made the right decision. There was a bit of like shit about coming to Bali. I didn't know if I was going to actually make it here. So I knew the minute I got off that plane, I was like, this is it. Like, this is where I have to be. It's where I'm meant to be. All the energy was just matching in my body. Like, don't get me wrong, I've had my days where I felt overwhelmed, but it doesn't last. It's like I feel overwhelmed for a little bit, but I think because I'm very good at dealing with my anxiety, I'm good at dealing with the cues and like not letting it keep going. Like, I know how to stop it and I know how to get out of it. But Bali feels more like home than Dublin ever has for me, so I just love it here. Like, I haven't felt this good in such a long time. So yeah.
I love that. So what do you think was holding you back in Dublin from feeling the way you do now? What is the difference between like being at home, trying to be who you actually are, and then being here and being surrounded by?
I think that like when I was at home, I've done a lot of work on myself at home, so I'm quite spiritual. I've done a lot of inner work, but I just felt like the environment surrounding me was really toxic, really negative, and I don't know how I actually grew in that environment, to be honest. When I look back now, I'm like, wow, you did that. Like, you actually, I feel like I overcame a lot in the environment I was in. And it's not that I was in a negative environment or surrounded by bad people. It's just that everyone's mindset is very closed at home. It's like a fixed mindset. People don't want to grow. People don't want to evolve. They're happy just being where they are. And I don't want that for my life. I'm really like business driven, mindset driven. Like, I know what I want, and I just didn't have that at home. And then also, like, I was working crazy hours at home and I didn't have socialization anymore. Like, I was just working all the time, hanging around with myself, like, because my schedule never matched up with the people around me. So I felt really lonely, felt really isolated at home. Even though I have amazing friends, I have amazing family, I just felt like my growth at home was done, because you need that socialising, you need to have these conversations with people to spark ideas, to help you grow. And I think especially in the PT industry, like, I just didn't know enough people at home, or people weren't willing to have those conversations. Like, it's like everyone's business is their own at home, and no one wants to like share ideas, no one wants to help each other. Everyone is just like, well, I'm going to succeed and you can just look after yourself, like, you know. Whereas I feel like over here, literally since the minute I got here, it's like, if I'm winning, so are you. You know, like, everyone wants to help each other. No matter what industry they're in, you can always learn something off someone if you just open your mind and open your ears to what they're saying. And I just felt like that was missing at home.
It definitely is. I feel like at home, a lot of the time, although people might be happy in 9-to-5 jobs, it often is the case of like being very fixed mindset from the beginning. So like, especially in secondary school, the main focus is getting good results in your leaving cert, right, to get into a good college. And then when you're in college, you're focused on getting your degree so that you can get a good job. And then you get a good job, and then the aim is to get, you know, a good enough salary to get a mortgage. And then when you get a mortgage, it's about settling down and having kids, and that's not for everybody. And I feel like
the cycle doesn't end. Like, someone has to break that cycle,
of course. And I feel like in my family, I'm not trying to boast about myself now, but I'd say, like, I'm the oldest of the grandchildren in my family, and I feel like I'm paving the way for the rest of my cousins and stuff like that to actually just like break out of that cycle. Because like I did really well in my leaving cert, and I'm open about that because I worked hard for it. But after that, I just knew that I wasn't gonna thrive in like a college environment, because I'm just very good self-taught. So I've just like dived into topics that I was interested in, and then of course like other people's fears and stuff are going to be projected onto you, and they're like, oh, you know, get that degree in your back pocket. And I understand that for some people, like, having a degree is like a great thing to have, and you can use that in so many ways to like get into industries that you want to get into, even if the degree is not related to that industry. It's a great opportunity. But I just wasn't thriving when I went to college for the year, and I just said, do you know what we're learning here, I want to dive a little bit into more detail and find out more about the topics that actually interest me, and not like the tangents they were going on in college. So that's where I was just like committed to my growth, and having a growth mindset, while it's so terrifying sometimes, it's just so good I feel like it's just so good for the soul to just like be open-minded. And you're surrounded by people like that out here. And I feel like if you're in Bali, because Bali's such a powerful place, everybody's on that same wavelength of like, you could go to someone and say the wackest shit ever and then they'd be like, oh cool, I must like, try that.
Everyone, it's like, I feel like if you come to Bali, you have an open mind, so nothing that you hear is like shocking, if that makes sense. Like whereas I know if I spoke about some of the things I speak about out here at home, people would be like, what is this person, like, she's crazy. And I've got that at home as well. It's like, you're mad, like everything I do, like the meditation, like how spiritual I am, people don't get it. It's like, but it's because people's minds are closed. People aren't willing to see that there's another way of living, like there's another way of living life. Like, we all have these fixed beliefs, fixed thoughts, and it obviously comes from childhood, like, but you can break that if you want to break it, and if you want to grow, you can. I used to have such a fixed mindset myself, like, and I never imagined being my own boss, running my own business, doing what I want to do. But it was like, when I knew there was more to me, that's when I delved into that side of things. Like, I went to college, I done all that, and I was just like, something just clicked with me, and I was like, this isn't for me. Like, I can't be, I don't like having a boss. Like, I don't like being told what to do when I work. So for me, I was just like, right, you need to find something you're passionate about and just do it yourself, like.
And for some people, what they're passionate about doesn't necessarily have to be a job, but once they're doing it for themselves, you're going to feel fulfilled, and you're going to feel more in line with your values. Because of course, if you're trying to create the life that you want, that might require a job that, you know, might take a lot longer to return that reward to you, of like finance or whatever it is, stability, if you go out on your own. But if you are in a job to get that and create a life that you want, but have something that you're passionate about in your life as well, that's really important. And that's one of the things I touched on in the last podcast with Zoe, was that like, not everybody's passion is their job, but as long as you have something that you're passionate about in your life, that's really, really important, to be like, to tapping into a part of yourself that is often neglected by a lot of people. So it's just really important to make sure that you're doing something that like literally lights your soul on fire, at least once in a while. Like, it doesn't have to be every day, but she has a point to make now. But at what point do you think you were gonna break that cycle? So what was there anything that happened, or was there any point where you were just like, you realized you were in a bit of a fixed mindset, or was it kind of like a gradual growth thing?
I think, like, I just always grew up, I was always afraid of like what everyone thought of me. Like, I always I always lived my life for other people, and it's only really in the past year or two that I've actually realised that. It was like I was always a people pleaser. I always just done what I thought I had to do, I thought I was meant to do. But I think like everything kind of started clicking for me. Like I had done my degree, got a job in it, lasted 2 weeks. I hated it, like absolutely. I couldn't think of anything worse than what I was doing. And it was actually like my mum and dad were like, you hate that job, like why are you, like, quit. And I was like, what do you mean quit? I was like, I'm doing this for you. I was like, I was basically thought that was what they wanted me to do. And then like my mum and dad are literally the most understanding people. All they want is for me to be happy. Like they're not pushy parents. They're not like, you have to do this, you have to go to college, you have to get this job. Like I could literally tell them I want to do the craziest thing, and they're like, yeah, go do it. Like, you know, they believe I can. But so I had that job and I absolutely despised it. Like I was miserable, and it was 2 weeks. Like I think I done 4 shifts, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And in the back of my mind, I always wanted to be a PT. Always. Like I always loved fitness. I always loved everything got to do with just moving your body, being healthy. Like, and I always went to the gym myself for my mental health. So I always knew if I want to get into this, I want to show people that it's not about how you look. Like it's about what's inside and how the inside feels compared to how the outside looks. And then after my mum and dad said that to me, I was like, I just remember sitting there and I was like, I just want to be a PT. And my mum and dad were like, well then go do it. Like, like what's stopping you?
Shout out to Misha's mum and dad there. Absolute like, legends.
Like what's stopping you? And I was like, it was me. I was stopping me. Like I was literally talking down to myself so much, didn't believe I could do it, didn't believe I could account to anything, like, and then amount to anything. Great English. I didn't believe I could amount to anything, and then the thought of putting myself out there kind of on social media and stuff really scared me as well. So that was like really what turned me off it. And then it was like when I started doing that course, like everything kind of started snowballing for me. Then I started working a lot more on myself, but the whole kind of like growth for me came like through going through a breakup. I feel like it happens to a lot of people, but like I was going through a breakup, and actually only this time last year, like it's crazy, like your whole life can change in a year. And I never used to believe that, but I got, like I only said to you the other day, I was like, oh my god, it's a year, like it's been a year. And I'm like, this time last year I would have never imagined myself to be where I am now, but it was like all of these turning points just made me be like, do you know what, fuck it, I just have to put myself first. Like I have to do me, I have to look after me. No one's going to do it for you. No boyfriends, no parents, no friend, nobody. Like you're in charge of your life, you're in control, you're an adult. Like you have to own your shit as well. Like I had toxic traits that I ignored for years, that I was like, well, it's everyone else's problem, not mine. Like it's not, it's yours. Like, do you know, it's your issue that you have to deal with, you have to face, because otherwise, the way I seen it last year, I was like, I either stay comfortable being uncomfortable and unhappy, or I go through some shit for a few months. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to be way better for it. Like, do I want to be unhappy for the rest of my life, or do I want to push through some shit for like a couple of months and be the best person I can be after that for hopefully the rest of my life, like, you know? And that for me was like the turning point where like something just clicked in me that I was like, I actually cannot live a miserable life anymore. Like life is too short. And people say that all the time, but like really it is. Like think how quick the days go by, and you're like, what have you done? Like, have you worked on yourself? Like, do you know? And I was looking back and I was like, right, I was 21 at the time, and I was like, I'm after spending, I think I was miserable since I was about 15, like honestly. So I had spent like 5 or 6 years in misery. Like, what was I just gonna let that time keep elapsing? Like you just have to do it. It
comes down to almost like, this is what I was saying about me and Micha clicking, like on a certain level, like we have very, very similar experiences. So when you were talking about like from going through a breakup, like it forced you then afterwards to like work on yourself and work through all that shit. And I remember just waking up one morning and calling myself out on my own shit and being like, I do not want to feel like this anymore.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, what action can I take? And it just comes down to logic. But you made a very good point to me the other day when we were talking about, like, sometimes it's very hard to make that transition to call yourself out on your shit and take action, because some people get so comfortable with being that person who is sad, and they start to make it part of themselves, and they start to identify with that, and it's very hard for someone to transition then into, no, do you know what, I'm gonna be the person that works on themselves. I'm gonna be the person that is happy. I'm gonna be the person that is like in a growth mindset all the time, and that, you know, people feel that radiate from you when you really do step into it. But do you think it was difficult for you to go from identifying with being kind of sad to being this new, like, spiritually awakened person? Because you are, like, and it radiates from you. Like, I felt it straight away.
It was tough because I spent so many years being miserable that, like, that was how people knew me. Like, when I was in school, I was the girl who walked around with her head down. No one spoke to me because I looked like such a bitch. Like, but I always was such a softie, and I always had I have a heart of gold, and it's one thing I'll say about myself. Like,
she does.
But I was so in on myself that, like, the radiation I had on people was just shit, like, you know. So when I started working on myself, like, I didn't have anything to prove to anyone, but I would re-meet people from, say, that I knew in school, or people who knew me through others, and it's like I had to reintroduce myself. Especially this year, I've noticed with people, it's like, oh my god, you were like this, like, really sad person, and like, I thought you were such a bitch, and I thought you were so angry and hated life, and you're actually so nice. And I'm like, thanks, like, you know. But I think that was the hardest part for me, was the fact that when you see people you haven't seen in a long time, it's like they feel like it's okay for them to, like, comment and be like, oh, you're not the same anymore. Like, of course I'm not. People grow, you know. And so, like, it's hard to work on yourself anyways, but especially when you've identified as something for so long, it's really hard. Like, I was so afraid of it, and I was hesitant and resistant to change as well. It took me a long time. I went to therapists. I've done every form of therapy you could think of. And
art therapy.
The arts therapy, I have PTSD from that. Like.
How did art therapy give you PTSD when you were trying to work on it? Like,
because, right, I am not artistic at all. So, and I'm a really, like, so, see, I'm a really anxious person. I was a really anxious person. So the thought of sitting there doing art, knowing I was shit at it, just literally made me want to die. Like, and this therapist was like, just draw how you're feeling. Like, no, like, I don't want to draw how I feel. I hated it. I done that for one day as well.
You should draw a stick man with a smiley face.
I think I drew a circle or something. She was like, draw a house. I was like, can't draw a house. Like, I didn't want to. Like, that gave me anxiety. Like, so yeah.
Did the opposite of what I was supposed to do.
It did the opposite of what I was supposed to do. Like, I was
funny.
literally a child as well. So yeah, that was not a vibe.
No.
But what was I even saying there? Oh, yeah, I've tried, like, every form of therapy, and it never worked for me. Like, because I felt like I was resistant to letting it in to help, if that makes sense. But then I kind of gave up on therapy. I was just like, oh, this shit, like, this doesn't work. So then I just fell back into the trap of having periods of happiness, periods of sadness, like, and I was medicated for a long time. And it was during COVID that I read a book, Lost Connections, and it was basically talking about, like, the
great book
goes into, like, it's a great book. That book changed the game for me. It was like, made me realise what I was missing, and that I'm not shitting on antidepressants at all. They really helped me get out of a hole, but you can't depend on them. Like, I was dependent on them, and I was only 17, 18, like, when I was taking them, so it Jesus.
Don't joke on there, like.
Dying.
She dying.
I got to the point where I was so dependent on them that I couldn't imagine a life without. Serious, stop fucking laughing at me.
Sorry. I just keep hearing it in my head now. I'm so sorry. You gasping for air. For everyone listening, this is literally me and Micha 24/7.
We don't stop. We're actually doing really well though.
We are doing really well. Carry on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I was taking medication and everything, and I was at the point where I literally could not get out of bed without it. Like, my mum will vouch for me on this. Xanax were my best friend. I needed them to get through life. Like, I couldn't cope. And I read Lost Connections at the beginning of lockdown, and he basically speaks about, like, antidepressants and the placebo effect and all this. I'm not really going to get into it because it's a very touchy subject and it's not what I'm here for. But I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. I need to find another way to cope. Like, I need to find a way to actually create change that's going to last, and that I'm not going to keep needing to medicate whenever I feel down again. And now from that point, it took me a good few months, probably I think about a year, to actually find something that helped me. But when I did find what helped me, I was still resistant, because in my head I was like, well, if I'm not sad, if I'm not anxious, what am I? Like, what are people going to identify me as? What am I going to identify me as? And I still have to, like, caught myself on sometimes. Like I said there a few minutes ago, like, I'm anxious. Like, it's still embedded in me because I had those emotions, and I identified myself as that for so long that it, like, became just so hard to step out of that. So that's why I, like, resisted change for so long, because I was like, I'm literally going to be nobody if I don't have these mental illnesses, or if I don't have these feelings about myself. But what you have to realise is that you are not. They're illnesses, they're feelings. You're not a feeling, you're you. Like, I'm Micha, you're Kelsey. I'm not depression, like, and I'm not happy either. Like, I feel happy. I have moments of happiness, I have moments of sadness, but I'm me, and I have these moments of happiness because I create them for myself. Like, I give that life to myself, like, you know. And when you can realise that, I feel like that's when everything changes, is when, like, you realise that you're just you. And all of those things, you can look at them as outside you, and that's when everything changes, because you're like, okay, if I'm not feeling anxious, I'm not feeling sad anymore, I'm still me. I can still be me. I'm still a human. I still have a personality. Like, you know, people love you for you. They don't love you because you're depressed, like, you know, or they don't love you because you're happy either. It goes on both ends of the spectrum. So it was when I could disidentify from that being me, everything changed for me, because I actually could let go of the emotions. I could let go of those feelings.
But I know so many people who can really say, like, or can agree with me that some people actually do identify with their experiences, with their trauma, with their grief. Like, it's very, very common for people to identify with that, and that to become who they are for a while. But it's important to realise, just like what Micha said, is that yes, that is a part of you. Like she said, she feels anxious, or she's, you know, was identifying as an anxious person, but she grew around that. And that's the same, it goes for, like, grief as well. Like, if you are grieving someone, the pain of grieving someone, even if it's, like, part of yourself that you're trying to let go of, you grow around that grief and you grow into this new person, but it's still always going to be there, but you are such a bigger thing around that. And I think that's what, like, a lot of people struggle with, especially with the pain and the struggle of depression, anxiety, mental health illnesses, is that once you realize that you are so much more than that, like, you are not your mental illness, you are not your depression, you're not anxiety, just like you said, but that pain, it might never go away, but you will grow around it, and it gets easier to live with once you really do make that disconnect from identifying with it. Like, I know my mentor, my tutor, Dan, I hope to have him on the podcast in the future because he's absolutely incredible. He's the founder of the mental health and exercise course that I did, and he was in such a rut, like he was in prison and everything, and then he came out and he was like, no, this is not who I am. I'm not going to identify with the guy who's been in prison. I'm going to change. Choice. Yeah, exactly. You have the choice.
You have the power of choice, and everyone has the power of choice. And it's liberating, like it's freeing when you realise that you're the only person that has power over your life. And I know people have situations in life that makes it like more difficult, and I feel like I always say, like, I know I'm privileged to have been able to like get the help I needed to be able to overcome the things I've overcome, but I still had the choice. I could have said no. I could have said, I'm happy being this way, I don't want to grow, I don't want to change. Like you can do anything, you know. And that's what it comes down to, is like, do you take this road or that road? Like, do you turn left or right? Like, and that's where everything changes, like, you know. Yeah. What road you decide to take, what paths you decide to take in life.
And for like people listening, they might be like, oh yeah, but how do you know like which path is the right one to take? Listen, if you get halfway down the path and it doesn't work out, that's just one less path to go down.
Reverse.
Yeah. Take a few steps back, like slingshot effect. Sometimes you have to go back, you have to pull yourself back in order to launch forward. Like
the arrow.
The arrow. Pop it open there. Micha has a tattoo of an arrow on her side, and it's just representative of that sometimes you need to be pulled back in life to launch yourself forward, and that goes for, you know, choosing whether left or right. And if left wasn't the right way in the beginning, the universe will let you know, and then you just go right. Honestly, like, just, we're going to get wacky now. We're going to get all hippie about the universe now.
You're going to see the real me now.
Yeah. But I feel like I was talking to one of my clients, Jen, if you're listening, you're an absolute legend. And she was saying, like, how she's been diving into a bit more meditation and how good she feels after it. And it's just like 5 minutes before bed. But she's really, like, trying to tap into that side of herself, or tap into that energy where she's like being present. And when you were saying earlier that when we were talking about anxiety and stuff, like, I was a very anxious person, and since I met Micha, like, she's said a few things, you don't even notice, but she said a few things that have really like hit home for me and have really like just given me a little bit of perspective. Because even I was on the phone to my dad last night, and my dad's been through me. He's been with me. he's been through me for a short while.
Straight through me.
Don't get me wrong. When he put me in my place a few times. No, but what I was trying to say was, my dad's been with me through thick and thin, like, and he knows what I've been through. And I was on the phone to him last night, and he was like, I'm going to see him in December. I miss him so much. But he said, this is just him looking out for me, and he's like, oh, I'll bring you over some, like, you know, anti-anxiety medication, because I've needed them in the past. And I literally turned to him and I was like, do you know what? I've actually been okay.
Aww.
I've actually been okay. Like, I actually don't feel like I need them anymore, because he was like, that's really good. Like, things must be going really well. I was like, Dad, don't get me wrong. Like, some days things hit me and I feel that spiral coming where I'm going to be like paralyzed by my anxiety. And I just like take a step back for a minute. And you said this the other day, you were like, be where your feet are. And I just like love that, because when you literally take a step back, 90% of the time everything's okay, and that 10% is probably just that text that you got, or that situation that just popped up. But 90% of the time you've clothes on your back, you've a roof over your head, there's people around you, there's food, you're safe 90% of the time. And when you can take that step back and see that, like, your anxiety nearly like shrinks a little bit down to a manageable size, where you're like, no, I can actually handle this. So last night when he said that to me, and I actually turned around and I was like, I actually haven't even thought about needing any sort of medication. But for some people that really, really helps them. But when you get to a stage where you can actually take a step back and say, oh my God, I feel like I can actually handle that now. It was actually a really, really nice moment. But my dad, he's just looking out for me, because he knows that, like, he knows the situation I was in. And I was just like I would wake up in the morning, my whole body would just vibrate with anxiety. Like, it would literally just like convulse, and I would not be able to leave the bed.
How amazing though is it that, like, now that's just a once in a while feeling,
yeah,
not an everyday feeling anymore. Yeah. Like, that's amazing, like, do you know?
Yeah.
And you thank yourself for that though, you know, because you done that. Like, no one else done that for you.
No.
So.
Because I remember, like, it got to the stage where it was happening every single morning. Like, I was literally waking up, my whole body was like convulsing. It was like it was rejecting the day that was ahead. Like, it was just like, no. So
immediately
no on today. That's the verdict. But it got to the stage where, like, every morning I would just dread waking up. And when I woke up, then the literal convulsions would start, and then I'd be like, what is today going to throw at me? And I was like experiencing the day twice. So everything that could go wrong that day, I was thinking about. Yes. And then if it did go wrong, I was experiencing it again. So I was literally putting myself through unnecessary pain and like
You've put yourself through a situation 2 times.
Twice. Yeah. Literally, like.
I feel like I've said this to people so many times, like, especially when I was coming out to Bali, like, people were like, are you not anxious about going? Like, anxiety is preempting the future. Like, it's all you have is now. All you have is this moment. The only thing that exists is now. Like, and I'm very much a now person.
Yeah.
I didn't used to be. But when people asked me before I came out here, like, are you not anxious about, like, moving country on your own? You don't know anyone. Like, I came over here on my own, didn't know a sinner. Hadn't a clue what I was doing. But I felt so at peace with it because I was like, well, you just put one foot in front of the other and whatever happens, happens. And I used to always say that to everyone at home. I was like, if I decide to be anxious about this and to think about this too much, I'm putting myself through it twice. If I'm going to feel anxious over there, once is enough. Like, once is enough dealing with it. So, like, that's such a good point. Like, that you don't need to put yourself through things 2 times. Like, just be in the moment, be present. Obviously, it's hard, but nothing is easy. I always say this, like, you have to choose your heart sometimes. Like, are you going to struggle through the rest of your life because you have this crippling anxiety that, like, you cannot get out of bed from? Or are you going to pick your heart and try just be as present as you can? Of course, your mind is going to wander. Of course, things are going to happen. You're going to get tested a lot in life. But isn't that better than just letting yourself be like that anxious, that depressed, or just not feeling like you because you're too scared that it's going to be hard? Like,
but even last night when we were talking, you were like, when you choose to work on yourself, and so we did a breath work. We did a breath work class last night with Kels, and I was absolutely sobbing because I went in there with intention to work through some shit, and all the shit came up, and afterwards, a few of the girls that did it with us, we were having dinner, and they were like, we were kind of resistant to it because we were afraid of, like, the trauma that was going to come up, and, you know, and when you actually just, like, stop resisting and let it come up and work through it there and then, it might take a week, it might take months, it might take a year, but in the, like, grand scheme of your whole life, would you rather deal with that trauma over the, like, certain period of time that it takes you to really, like, go back to yourself by working through that, or would you rather spend the rest of your life with that, like, suppressed, holding it back, pushing those emotions to the back of your mind, trying to lock it away in a box, and then it will come up in other forms, like whether
everything comes up, whether it comes up through physical illness, like, every emotion you're suppressing has to come out somewhere at some point. And if it doesn't come up in your emotions, I can guarantee it's coming up in some physical ailment. Like, you're sick all the time, you always have this pain that no one knows what it is. Like, that's your emotions. Like, your trauma body has to come out somewhere. So literally, like, why not dedicate a few months of just going through the grim shit to be happy, like, to feel joy, and to actually be able to, like, break down those core beliefs that you have about yourself. Like, this is what it all comes down to. Every single person is the same in this manner. We all have core beliefs. We all have things we think of ourselves, or we view life in a way that's usually not good. Like, we view it negatively. Like, you can change that, you know, and just go through the shit. Like, go through the shit times to get to the good, like, because it's not gonna be shit forever. Like,
yeah, it's got to get
you
worse
know?
before it gets better.
Yeah,
It really does.
it does.
And even what you were talking about there, like it manifesting in different ways. Like I have clients that come to me and they're like, I have X, Y, and Z wrong with me, and I just like, I've tried everything, I've tried all the diets, I've tried all the this, that, and the other, and then I'm like, okay, but how stressed are you all the time? And they're like, oh, I'm so stressed all the time, and I'm like, well, that's
like,
where it's coming from.
To feel perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If you're literally killing your body.
Yeah.
Like,
So people like have all of the, like they might have gut issues, or they might have like a bloat that won't go away, or like pain, and they think like, right, I need to go on this diet. Like I need to cut bread out of my diet because that's what's causing my digestive issues. We love carbs over here. Okay, take it from the people.
We love some Dan cookies.
Yeah, we do love some Dan cookies, but they're like, right, let's cut out this, let's cut out that. Like let's try this diet, let's try that, and they're just ignoring the root cause, yeah, which is like them not being able to manage their stress. And not everyone knows how to manage stress, and that's why as coaches, we provide our clients with the tools. We provide them with more options than just like completely like forgetting about something, because if you push something to the side that you're stressed about, subconsciously it's still going to be there. It's still going to be there. And you have to deal with it.
It's just going to get worse, worse until like, how bad is it going to get until you're like, just deal with it. Like, and there's so many ways to deal with things. Like the way I deal with something wouldn't be the way someone else will deal with it, and that's like, I always bring this to my clients. I'm like, I give you options. Like, I give you a list of things you can do to feel better, and it's different for everyone. But like, for anyone listening, my biggest piece of advice is find what it is that relieves your stress. It could be art, it could be going walking, it could be meditating, it could be yoga, it could be anything. It could, like, literally the list is endless to what can help you manage your stress. But find what your thing is, and literally cling to it. Like, whenever you feel that stress coming, go do what you need to do. Like, self-care is not selfish. It is necessary. And like, if you're not looking after yourself, I always say this, you're projecting to other people that it's okay for them to disrespect you because you're disrespecting yourself. Yeah. If you can't have self-respect, how do you expect anyone to respect you, to be nice to you, to look after you, to care for you? Like, you're giving off the vibe to the world that, well, I don't give a shit about myself either, so you don't have to.
Exactly,
you know?
But that's where that saying comes from, right? Or it's like, before you love anybody else, you need to love yourself. But I think before anyone loves you, you just need to respect yourself. Yes. And you just need to look after. And like what Micha said, like, you need, like, self-care is not selfish, and self-care is not just pamper nights and face masks. It's good nutrition, it's good sleep, it's like being social, having good people around you.
Calling yourself out on your shit as well. Yeah. Like, self-care is not pretty. And if it's pretty, you're doing it wrong. I always say, like, of course there's
painting our fingernails,
the little nails, the toes, the face mask, like, we all love it. But, and it is self-care, but there's also that self-care that, like I was saying, when I started facing my shit, I was like,
it's ugly.
It's really fucking ugly. Like, I realised I was a bitch. I was a bit of a bitch, like, you know, and I was a nightmare to be friends with, to be in a relationship with as well. Like, I had to, like, how hard is that to call yourself out and say, right, I was actually a nightmare of a girlfriend. Like, because I spent so long blaming other people, and I was just like, one day, like, you have to call yourself out. Like, we all have bad traits and we all have bad habits, but if you can call yourself out on them and actively work to change them, like, that is self-care in itself, because you're trying to make yourself a better person, so then you can be better for yourself and others, like your partner, your kids, like whoever it is. You have to show up for you, and then it will benefit other people around you, and in turn then they will respect you more because you're respecting yourself. I think I have never gotten so much love since I really called myself out on my shit, and I was like, I actually don't like feeling like this. I don't like the person I am right now. I just really want to work on. And people do identify like certain positive traits, which is great with me. Like, I have clients text me, I have family members text me saying that they're envious of how confident I am. They're envious of like how like courageous I am to like move to Bali and just like throw everything up in the air and say, right, whatever lands, whatever sticks, you know what I mean? And
they will identify all these traits and they'll say like, oh, you're so mature for your age and all this. I was like, I worked so hard for all those things. I didn't just wake up one day and I was like, you know what? I'm confident and I'm going to go and start a podcast. I've been sitting on making this podcast for short of a year, like, because I was just like, I can't do that. And then I was like, no, do you know what? I'm going to work on my self-belief. I'm going to work on those limiting thoughts and I'm just going to do it. Yeah, work on those core beliefs. And like, it just came down to then, like, one of my biggest like core values or core beliefs is like, I want to help people. So having open conversations on a podcast, even if it doesn't help you, it might help your friend, it might help. And if this podcast helps one person,
something will always resonate as well. Yeah, you know, like, and whether it resonates with you right now or not, like, you'll look back and you'll be like, I remember when they said that and now I understand. Yeah, like, things take time to click. Like, I've listened to so many podcasts, read so many books at the time. I was like, what is this? Like, my head was wrecked reading.
And then you get your light bulb moment.
And then like when I done the work on myself, I was like, yeah, that's what they meant. Like, you know, and it's not shit. Like, it's, these things work, these things are true, and you have to, like, just open your mind. Like I said at the start, when you open your mind to things and open your ears and actually listen, instead of like, we're constantly like, when someone is talking, you're like thinking of the next thing to say, or you're like criticizing, like, you know, it's like no one actually listens. Like, no one actively just opens their ears and absorbs what the person is saying and then responds. Because
this is something that's really big for me. Like, I actually pride myself in being a really good listener because I hate filling gaps. So when I'm like, even if, let's start with like clients, because clients always come to me and they have a superficial reason why they're joining, right? Losing weight, blah blah blah. But then after they finish talking about that superficial goal, I won't speak for like 5 seconds and they're probably like, this is awkward. But then they're like
on the end of Zoom, you're just like
yeah. So like, I'm like, in my head, I'm not counting like 5 push-ups. I'm just like, I'll give them a little bit of time now just to like say anything extra that they want to say, because if you cut them off after they're being like, I want to lose weight, then they're just like, right, that's it. Whereas they'll expand on that and then they'll be like, yeah, just like, I really don't feel confident in like how I look right now. I don't feel confident in who I am and I'm really struggling with like this, that and the other. And then the real reasons come out. The real, like, the core beliefs. I'm not a confident person, right? That's what we actually need to work on. We don't need to work on you just losing weight. We need to work on you becoming more confident. We need to work on you going into the gym, lifting a weight, realizing that you can get stronger, and then apply that to your life. Like, if you can go in and conquer an obstacle like lifting 5 kilos heavier than you did last week, you can go and conquer an obstacle that week, whether it's in relation to your career, family life, whatever it is. But even when I'm like talking to people, especially here, it's like, just listen, don't speak. And you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Oh, I like that.
You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So open your ears, just listen. After someone stops talking, just give them 5 seconds, because if they have more to say, the chances are that more to say is a deeper reason of why they're telling you this. Maybe they just want to be heard. Maybe they don't want your advice. And that's something that people fall into all the time. It's like, someone is like opening up to them and then they're like, oh my God, they're like panicking because as they're talking, they're trying to think of a solution for them. And then they're not actually listening to what they're saying. And then the whole conversation just goes tits up because you're trying to offer this shit.
You don't want the solution. Like,
no, literally you could be just like, oh, my boyfriend did this yesterday, blah, blah, blah. And then
you just want to vent. Like, you just want to get shit off your chest.
You know, like, a problem shared is a problem halved. Like, sometimes people just want to let it out.
Offload, just dump.
Yeah, and half the time you know the answer. So, like,
we all know the answer, not half the time, all the time.
Yeah.
Answers to everything are within you. Like, everything you need to know is in here. And you have to just believe. Like, you have to listen to, like, the voices in your head. We all have them. We all have those voices in our head.
I'm actually reading a book right now about that.
What book is it?
It's called The Little Voice in Your Head.
Oh my God, wow.
I'll give it to you after. It's really good. Really good.
But we all have that inner voice. And that's there to guide us. Like, that voice knows. Mm-hmm. But you keep doubting it. Like.
But also it can be a negative voice if you let it.
Yes.
So I have my voice in my head that knows my core beliefs, and then I have someone else.
This little shit voice that just like peeks in every once in a while. It's like, do you really want that?
Know, like, you know the way like shows, like cartoons and stuff would always portray like an angel and a devil on your shoulder. So for me, it's not like an angel and a devil. It's more like me and then the voice that has been formed from my environment growing up, from the people around me, from society, all of this. And then there's like the voice that really knows who I am deep down. And when that voice I learned to listen to me more than all the like other voices that were coming from social media and people around me, and caring what other people think. And I think since I've done that and realized that like the voice that slates you when you stand in front of the mirror, that's not you. Like, you were not born slating yourself straight out of the womb.
We were born literally a clean slate. Like, we did not know anything. If you speak so negatively to yourself, that you were conditioned to be that way. You weren't born saying, oh, like, fucking hate my hair. Like,
Yeah.
Or I hate, I don't know. I actually find it so hard now to criticise myself, because I've grown to just be like, you are who you are. Whoever likes it likes, whoever doesn't, fuck off. Like, do you know, like, I like myself and that's all that matters. But like, you know, we weren't born, like, that's how you were born. Like, you were born just as you. And society, conditioning, social media, family, friends, everyone conditioned you to feel like, I have to be this way, or I have to, or maybe my legs shouldn't look like that. Like,
they're your legs?
That's you. You know, like, it's simply you, and that's it. Like,
simply you. I love that. Simply you.
Like, you're just you, and the more you try to change things,
or
the unhappier you're gonna be. Like, I used to try fit in so bad. Like, I look at him like, who are you? Like,
but I do that as well.
Who is this girl that, like, I got, like, with my lip fillers and everything. Now, like, at the time I wanted them, I hated my lips. Like, I actually really disliked my lips. But then I kept getting more and more, and I was like, I remember, like, the first time I got my lips done, my dad was like, be safe. It's like, you look like you have 2 tires on your face. And he didn't give a fuck what he was saying. But like, then I got so consumed in that fakeness that I wanted my jaws done, I wanted my cheeks done, I wanted everything done. And I, like, for who? Like, it was because everyone around me had that, and I felt like to have friends, to fit in, to be whoever, I needed to do all that. But that was because I hadn't done the inner work on myself, and I didn't love me, and I didn't think anyone else would love me unless I was like everyone else. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I felt like I had to get all this external validation off people, when really the only person you need to validate is yourself. And like, when you, like, everyone is so ashamed to say that they love themselves or they like something about themselves. I'm like, I fucking love who I am. Like,
but I love who I am as well, and I still
actually love myself so much. I'm like,
I love myself
like,
too.
Do you know what, girl? Pat on the back for you doing this. Like, and everyone sags me because I do not give a fucking shit. Like, my mum and dad and my sister, like, I leave the house looking crazy. The Crocs, the clothes I wear, like, I literally just fuck shit on and go. But like, a year ago, I would have been like, I need to do my hair, I need to look perfect, like, I can't be a mess. And like, every time I walk down the stairs, they're like, you're really gonna go outside looking like that? I'm like, yeah. Now, my dad, not so much. My dad is also on the hippie vibes, we love it. But so me and my dad are like, we go out looking like crazy people all the time, and my mum and my sister are like, we don't know you. So, like, that's when you know you're happy, because you don't even look at anyone around you. Like, I genuinely do not notice anyone around me ever, because I just really don't care. You know, I just know that I'm here, I'm happy, I'm doing what I want to do, and like, fuck everyone else.
Do you know what? A weird experience, right? When I was back in Ireland, I was in Super Value, right? And I was standing at the self-checkout or whatever, and there was this woman behind me where, I don't know who, her daughter or something. And for anyone that's listening, I have an undercut. For anyone on YouTube, you can see it. So I have an undercut, right? And this woman behind me, I could hear, and she was like, why would she do that to her hair? And I literally just turned around and I was like, it's not in your head, you don't need to worry about it.
Like, why do people feel like it's okay? Like, that's their own insecurities. I always say this, I'm like, if you're going to judge other people and, like, live and let live. Yeah. Like, why does it matter what someone else's hair looks like, what clothes someone else is wearing, like, what what's on their face or what tattoos they have, anything. Like, why does it matter? Like, it doesn't.
And we were talking about this
Hate
over
it.
we were talking about this over cookies the other night. Like, we were talking about like the real reason why we were put on this planet, and the stuff that we do every single day that is just bizarre compared to like why we're actually here. And the things like bringing other people down, like trying to seem like you're above anyone else, or trying to fit in and trying to be someone who you're not, just to get validation from other people. It's just like a waste of energy. It's such a waste of energy.
And it's a never-ending cycle. Like, you're never gonna be validated. Like, you're gonna be validated for 5 minutes, and then you're looking for the next thing, and then the next, and the next, and the next. Like, it doesn't end. Like, you end it by finding the love in here and bringing it out. Like, and honest to God, like, since I started loving myself, like, my whole life changed. Like, I attract good people into my life now because
Thanks.
I directed at you. But like, I attract good people into my life. I attract good energy because I give off that vibe that I respect myself, I love myself. So if you're coming into my life, you better fucking love me as well. Like, you know, because I just don't take shit off people anymore. Like, because I know my value, I know my worth, I know what I deserve. And I feel like people are like so ashamed to feel that way, because it's like we grew up in a box, and it's like you're not meant to get outside the box. Do you know? It's like, me and my dad always say this, like, me and my dad are so close, and honestly I owed all my spiritual awakenings and like everything I've been through the past year, like, I owe it all to my dad. Like, he got me into all this. The man changed my life. Like, honestly. But we always kind of talk about, and he has so much knowledge about everything. I could say something, and he's like, yeah, but like this and this, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. But we always talk about like fitting into like the 99% of people, and it's like we grew up wanting to just follow the crowd, to be sheep. Everyone wants to fit in because that's what's acceptable. That's what's normal. But like, that's what's normalized, is fitting into that 99% bracket. And it takes a very strong person to say, no, I don't want to be in that 99%. I want to stand out in this 1%, and I want to do me. And I want to, you know, I have visions for my life, but for others as well. It's like, I know I was put here to help people in some way, whether it's like through my PT, and whether it's some other avenue I go down in the future. I know I'm here for that reason, and I had to step outside of what I knew to be able to fulfill that. I've outgrown people, I've outgrown things, I've outgrown so much, but it was either outgrow those people and don't be afraid to stand out and be me, or just keep in that 99% and never being happy. Like, you know, you have to, you're on this hamster wheel, and you have to decide when to get off. You know, or else keep going and nothing changes. Like, you just keep going through the motions of the same shit all the time, or else just get off that wheel and do what you want to do, and listen to your gut, listen to your heart. Like, do you, and do not care about what anyone says. Like, I'm sure people who know me or people who don't know me judge me. I don't care. I really don't care. Like, because I know that I'm being fulfilled for what I'm doing, and I know that I'm probably happier than them as well, because if they're judging me, there's something missing from them. If you have to judge someone else, there's something missing from you, and you have to look deep in you and say, well, why am I judging this person? Like, most people don't even know you who judge it as well. They know the person you put on social media or whatever. Like, you know, we obviously only show our highlight reels on Instagram, or, well, to be fair, I post a lot of shit on Instagram that like is very real and raw, but I know that that's what I'm meant to do. I know that's what I'm here for. That's me trying to step into that 1% to show people it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to be upset, it's okay to be anxious, it's okay to not be okay sometimes, but you have to pull yourself out of that shit, and that life gets better. Like, you know, like, life really does get better when you allow yourself to be open to it. So people judging you, like, let them be. I always say, just let people be, and don't let that consume and waste your energy, because like the more you think about shit people say about you, or like bad things that have happened, you're just drawing in negative energy, like, and energy vibes. So
energy vibes.
If you're drawing in negative energy, obviously negative things are going to happen. If you're trying to bring in good energy, positive energy, good things will keep happening, you know. So always be aware of what you're projecting out, because that's what you're going to get back.
I love that.
You with all the motorbike accidents.
I don't know. I'm trying so hard to attract positive energy over here, and bad shit.
Why don't you stand up for me?
Go.
Thunder ties problems. It's too much serious conversation for a few.
Sliding into the DMs.
Sliding in.
Oh, I need to get myself together now. That was
What
funny.
were we talking about there? The motorbikes.
Yeah, I'm trying so hard to attract positive energy over here, but negative stuff keeps happening to me, and do you know what? I'm at the stage in my life where I actually don't care. Like, all this negative shit can keep coming at me, and it's not going to waver who I am, and it's not going to waver my outlook on life. It's not going to be like, it's not going to push me away from what I'm passionate about, because shit happens. Life comes, shit happens, and I just have had a very, long series of unfortunate events.
Just deal with the shit.
Yeah, so like for
for
context, for people, let's run through. So
It's really not good.
I arrived in Bali on day 4, was in a motorbike crash, and then ended up in hospital with dengue fever and Bali belly. So you can imagine the pretty image of me lying in a hospital bed but they gave me some whack painkillers, and I was having a great old time. Having a ball. For anyone who's had the green whistle before, is exactly like that. And then came home from hospital, never really recovered from that. Like, my stomach was always a little bit off. Then I ended up with a parasite, which is great. So then ended up on some even stronger anti-parasite, anti-pain, pain killers. And then was recently in another motorbike accident. Mom, I'm sorry for not telling you. It's out there now. But I'm fine, I'm alive.
Your mom's gonna be like, what the she's coming out, she's gonna be here.
Yeah, I know. Mom, I'm so sorry, but it was minor.
You were grand.
I was grand. I got straight up.
No scratches, no bruises.
Two beautiful Balinese men came over and lifted me up like I was a goddess.
Scooped
off the ground. And it was fine. That was actually the day I was extending my visa, so maybe it was a sign from the university to be like, don't extend your visa, but then I did it anyway, so here we are. And then what else has happened? I got bitten by a mosquito and my leg blew up like a balloon.
Oh, your leg. You don't want to see the leg.
Oh,
the leg
yeah.
is crazy.
So anyone who has skeeter syndrome, you know exactly what I mean. But yeah, all of these like negative series of events have been...
It's like testing you.
Yeah.
I always say it's like...
But it has not wavered me in one...
Yeah, I always say this, like, you work through your shit and then the universe just launches something at you, and it's like, have you really dealt with that shit?
Yes.
And this is all, like, that's test to be like, right, I still need to do a little bit of work on this, or I still need to do a little bit of work on that, and like those bad things help you realise that. But it's important to always try to keep a positive mindset even when you are going through the shit.
Yeah.
To realise that these are just tests. This is life just being like, do you really want this? Do you really not want that? Like, you know.
And I think like my mindset as well is like, this can't last forever.
Yes,
like,
nothing is permanent.
No,
we're not permanent. Nothing is permanent.
When I had my parasite, like I was not well hotel, like really not well hotel.
Did you copy my saying? Do you always say that?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I always say not well hotel.
I love that. Not well hotel. But basically,
I always say someone's in Heartbreak Hotel.
Heartbreak Hotel. I hope no one's in Heartbreak Hotel watching this. If you are, much love.
Sending you love.
Sending you love and hugs. Yeah, it does. It doesn't last forever. But I remember when I had a parasite, like, again, it was not well hotel, and I was like on my own in my guest house. There was no one really staying near me because I'm quite out of the way of Canggu, and I slept on the bathroom floor for 2 days. But those 2 days where I slept on the bathroom floor, I was like, this is not going to last forever. I'm just vibing absolutely out of it on the floor, like vomiting every 2 minutes, just like, yup. It's not gonna last forever. It's all right. It's all right. I may not have any fluids in my body right now, but you know what?
She's
looking
dying, but not forever.
yeah. Looking like I'm raisin on the floor, pure prune on the bathroom floor, like absolutely crippled.
Oh no, raisins. I fucking hate raisins. Trying to prune.
Looking like a date.
Oh no.
But yeah, I was just like, this is not gonna last forever. Stay positive, all this. And then my mom rang me one night, and she's like, how are you feeling? I was like, well, I just projectile vomited all over the wall. And she was like, oh no, Kelsey. And I was like, no, it's all right though, I'm vibing. She was like, you were cracked. You were cracked in the head.
That is insane.
I honestly just take everything with.
Take it as it comes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, literally, nothing lasts forever. That goes for good times as well.
Alexa, play Bulletproof.
Like, no, she is bulletproof at this point.
Yeah, I know.
I actually think you have 9 lives. Like,
I do.
But yeah, like, nothing lasts forever. Like, good times don't last. You have to appreciate them when they're there. And it all comes down to just being present, being in the now. Like, don't think about the past. Like, don't dwell on the past and don't preempt the future. Like, because the past was once the present.
Mm-hmm.
And the future is also going to be the present at one point. So really, all you have is the present.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the present moment is all that exists.
You ever watch Kung Fu Panda?
Yes, but I don't remember it.
For anyone listening that knows Kung Fu Panda, you know that the wise little turtle man.
Yes.
It's like, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
so take your gift.
So true.
Take your gift.
Like, and we're so lucky to have this moment, like, you know, like, it's not guaranteed. And I think people forget that, like, by dwelling on, oh, well, this happened, or like blah blah blah. Like, whenever I ask someone, if I look at someone and they're like having a shit day, like, why are you having a shit day? It's always something about the past, or it's always something about the future. It's never something right now. Right now, you cannot be sad. Nothing's happening right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, like, obviously within reason.
Yeah.
But, like,
yeah.
in the majority of the time, like, when people are not feeling okay, it's because of the past or the future. So you're literally crippling yourself by just not being here, do you know?
Be where your feet are.
Yes, literally.
Just be in the moment. And a lot of people don't realise that has so much power. Like,
it's the most powerful thing.
So, do you ever... I don't know why I'm referencing so many movies today. But anyway, and they're kids' movies as well. You can tell where my brain is. But did you ever see that film Inside Out? Great film.
Oh, I love that film.
Great film.
I love it.
And in it, there's like the core memories in that little like marble looking thing. And when I want to... So, obviously, there's core memories that your brain is just like, this is a significant moment. This is like where we're feeling an overwhelm of a certain feeling. And that's like, you know, we lock it in. But sometimes, like, I've tapped into a part of myself in my brain that I'm able to, like, create core memories for myself. So that all comes down to presence. And whether it's such a simple moment of, like, literally just, like, walking on the beach and, like, it's literally the most normal day ever. But I'm, like, looking around and I was like, right, what's 3 things I can see? I can see the sunset, I can see the sand, and I can see, like, kids playing football over there. And then I'm like, right, like, one thing I can smell is like the fresh sea air. Let's hope no one fired around me, or that would be a shit one. But then I'm like just tapping in to all my senses, and then all of a sudden I have this core memory created in my brain of a time that was just like where I felt just at peace, or where I was feeling like overjoyed. Like the first breathwork session that I did with Kels, so he talks about walking into a room in the meditation, and there's a memory playing on the screen in the room, and you step into that and you're like surrounded by whoever is there, or you just step into that moment and feel everything that you were feeling in that moment. And always when I walk in, it's the moment of my going away party when I was coming to Bali. Like everyone that I love was in one room, and it was just a room just filled with like just so much love. Like, and I absolutely sobbed in my first breathwork session, and the same last night, but that memory just is always on the TV. It's just a moment where I just felt everybody's love for me, and that was because I was in such a like place of loving myself as well, that I was able to feel that love coming to me. Do you get me? So that's just,
I love that.
yeah.
But like, that's what happens when you become present. You realise that every moment is actually so magical. Like, I have cried so many times since I got to Bali, just because I'm like standing there and I'm like, can't believe I'm here. Like,
Overwhelmed with gratitude, like.
yeah, like literally I practice gratitude a lot, so I am a very grateful person, like, anyways. But since I got here, I'm just like, wow, like, the simplest things are just amazing. Like, it's like you become speechless at things. Like, I cried watching the sunset the other night.
I do that all the time,
just
girl.
walking down the beach, and I was like, oh my god, like, I prayed for this moment. Like, in the past, like, all I wished for was to be at peace, to be happy, to be able to live somewhere that I can work and not be stuck at home. Like, I literally prayed to have the life I have now. And I think some people get caught up so much then in chasing the next goal that they forget to appreciate that, well, at one point this was everything you wanted. And it goes down to, again, people not being present. Whereas, like, I have goosebumps talking about this, Jesus. But like,
Passion.
but it's like, you have to stop and just appreciate that, like, everything you ever wanted at one point became reality. And if it didn't, it wasn't meant for you. So even when you didn't get what you wanted, you still have to have gratitude for that, because that was the universe protecting you, you know. And in the last few months, like, the more grateful I am, the more I get, you know. But it's like, I'm grateful for everything I have, but I'm also like, well done me for giving this to myself, because I didn't just end up in Bali. I didn't just plunk my arse here and be like, you know, I worked for it. I worked really hard to get here. Worked really hard on myself, my business, everything. Like, I gave this life to myself, but I'm also very grateful that I could do that, you know. Like, gratitude is super important, but it's also important to be thankful, like, as well. Thankful for people who helped you on the way, for you helping yourself, for you giving yourself the respect to have everything you ever wanted. Because I do truly believe that if you want something, no matter how far-fetched, how crazy it seems, you can have it. Me and my dad always say this: if you can have, like, if you can vision it, I'm gonna butcher the saying.
If you can visualize it.
If you can visualize it in your mind, or if you can envision it in your mind, you can hold it in your hands. We always say that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
What's your dad's name?
Keith,
what a legend. Shout out to Keith. I know for a fact he's going to be listening to this.
Oh, he's probably like...
He's probably crying on the other
like,
end.
Literally, since I came here, like, my mum and dad, like, they just keep texting me, like, I'm just so proud of you.
I know,
like,
my mum and dad do that as well.
My dad, like, he's a big softie, and me and my dad are so close, like, so I know he's probably going to be, like, crying listening to this, but, yeah, like, a lot of the knowledge I've gained in the past year about, like, self-development and everything, like, it literally just comes from him, because he has also been through the shit and worked really hard on himself. So that kind of pushed me to work harder as well, because I was like, well, if he can do it, why can't I? You know? It's good to have people around you that uplift you, and your environment and your surroundings are really important. Like,
you are a product of your environment.
You are. Like, the 5 closest people to you is what you're going to be. And, that, like, at home. Now, I fucking love all my friends. I'm not shitting on my friends or anything like that, but it's like, my environment,
that bitch is coming out again.
My environment as a whole was just not serving its purpose anymore, you know. I done what I needed to do at home, and then I needed to meet fresh people. I needed new, just like the freshness of, like, it's so refreshing over here, because everyone is here for themselves, to work, to grow, to build, to just be better. And especially, like, with business and with self-development, it's so inspiring being around people that are in those growth mindsets as well. But, like, the people around you, I can't emphasize it enough. Like, if you feel tired and drained after being with someone, they're not good for you. Like, they are not a good person to be around, you know. if you feel like you're filling cups all the time and yours is left empty, like how are you ever going to look after yourself then? Because like how are you going to achieve the life you want to achieve when you're just looking after everyone else?
I think it's an important thing for people to realise as well, that it's okay to outgrow people.
Yes, we spoke about this the other day, and I was saying to you about like having different friends for different things and stuff, like, and I think a lot of people get caught up in like what I was saying to you is like, well, I'm always there for them and they're never there for me. Like, not everyone has to be there for you. Like, I really do believe that like every friend you have serves a different purpose. Some friends are for fun, some friends are for partying, some are for crying to, some are for, you know, giving you vision and inspiration, like motivation, and they're like, say, business driven and stuff. Like, you learn something from everyone, and not everyone, like, I'm a fixer, like, and I'm trying to get better at that like, you don't have to fix everyone, like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's not your job on this earth, is not to fix people. People fix themselves, and you can just guide them in the right direction. But like, I love helping people, like, that's my thing, but not all my friends love helping people. So you can't be pissed off if one of your friends is a little bit shit at that, like, because then you have other friends that are good at it. And I think it's like, you have to have a mix of all of those different people around you to be fulfilled. But I do think that's really important. Like, so I think people get caught up in the whole friendship thing a lot. Like, it's like, well, I'm always there for them, they're never there for me, or whatever. And if someone is truly not adding any value to your life, then completely cut them off. Like, it's okay to outgrow people, like you said. Like, we are not stuck in the mud. You know, no. We're meant to move, we're meant to grow, you're meant to outgrow people. And that comes for family as well. Like, you don't have to be around people just because you know them a long time, or just because, well, we became friends in primary school. Who the fuck cares? Like, if you feel drained after being in that person's presence and you're genuinely not gaining anything from the relationship, like, it's not for you. So, like, you need to choose, do you respect yourself and walk away from things that don't serve you anymore? Or are you just going to constantly keep being drained, and then you can't achieve your goals, you can't go where you want to go, you can't be who you want to be because you're being zapped of all your energy because of the people around you, like, you know? It, again, comes down to choice, like, what do you want? Yeah.
And I think, like, when you look at what you said about your cup always being empty and you feel like you're filling everybody else's cup, like, a big thing that I try to, like, nail down with clients as well and people around me, I'll always say this to them, like, put your own oxygen mask on before everyone else's, because you will just be left suffering if you are constantly filling everybody else's cup or constantly looking after everybody else and you neglect yourself, whether that be just because there's this belief that you need to be there for everyone else and then, you know, not expect anything back of them. I used to be such a people pleaser, and I used to run around after my friends, and I used to, like, literally run myself into the ground for their benefit, or like putting,
or like, you'd go places and do things that you didn't want to do.
Yeah, like, I would put people's happiness before my own. But now, like, I know for a fact I have friends that will absolutely jam pack their schedule with college work and then meeting up with people, and I'm just like, I could never be that person, because I have to schedule time in for myself. I have to be on my own, and I have to be able to sit with myself. And sometimes I look at people and, like, not that I'm analysing anybody, but I'm looking at them absolutely jam-packing their schedule and they're never on their own, and I'm like, have you ever actually sat on your own?
You need to learn to be comfortable
and listen to your thoughts, like.
Yeah. But that scares people because they don't know what they're going to hear. But, like, you have to sit in, it's when you sit in silence with yourself that change happens, like, change occurs, because you hear all the things that you've been, like, muffling out for so long, like, you become awakened. You realise the problems you have, the issues that's in your life, the good things in your life. You realise what matters, what doesn't. If you're someone who constantly needs to be surrounded by people to feel full, like, it's not a good sign.
Check yourself.
Yeah, you need to check.
Check, like, yourself before you wreck yourself.
Go on. But I'm the exact same. Like, and everyone should be the exact same. You have to have time on your own every single day. Like, if I'm constantly with people, I actually feel like shit.
Yeah.
I genuinely feel like a bag of shit. Like,
I have a social battery, and after a certain while, I'm just like, I need to go plug myself.
So quick.
Yeah.
Like, I have to literally go home and be like, oh my god, like, but I'm very sensitive to energy as well, so I pick up on everyone's energy around me. So I'm just like, when I'm around people for so long, like, I actually just feel wrecked, and I'm like, couldn't do that every day. Like, you have to just be on your own. You have to learn to be comfortable on your own, because all you have is you. Like, friends come and go, family comes and goes, people come and go. Like, the only constant in your life is you. The only person you ever have and will always have is you. So learn to be comfortable on your own. Learn to sit with yourself. Listen to what's inside, and like, you will realise so much about yourself that you would never even imagine. Like,
yeah, I think like what you said there, all you have is you, and like, you're living with yourself 24/7, and the voice that's going on in your head, you live with that 24/7. It's like a roommate that never leaves. So just make sure it's a nice place to live. If you're there 24/7, make sure that your roommate up here in your head is a nice roommate, and they're adding to your life and not just like tearing you down every day and just like pushing you to be better.
Be kind to yourself. Like, life is hard enough. Like, there's enough shit in life. There's enough shit people as well. You don't need to be shit to yourself as well.
No,
like,
don't need to add to that.
And also, on that note, this is so off tangent, but keep your room clean. That really helps your mind. A clean space and a clear space is a clear mind. Yeah. How do you expect to feel great if your room's a fucking dump? Or your workspace is a dump?
My mom's going to be like, Kelsey, you are talking shite right now.
Now my room was a dump before I left.
Thank you. Yeah,
my head was also a mess.
Yes, that's what I was getting at.
I always say, like, my mum knows if I'm struggling, because my room is like
that is the exact same with me. Like, even with my room here, sometimes I notice it just getting a little bit disorganized. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, I need to check myself.
Yeah,
really need to check myself. And then I clean my space, and I'm like, right, mine
is
fixed.
Like, instantly happy again.
Yes. I think that's such an important thing.
It is so important. Like, that just came to my mind. I was like, have to say it. Like, because it's so true. Like, if your space is untidy, unorganized, like, you're setting the tone for a really shit day. Yeah. Or like, when you wake, another one, sorry, I'm having all these brainwaves. Have a morning routine. If you wake up and you're in work at 9 and you wake up at 8:30 and you leg it out the door, like, I'm sorry, your day is going to be full of shite.
I'm going to call out my best friend back home, right? Ellie. Ellie's going to kill me for saying this, but for so long, like, I was Ellie's coach as well, and I was like, Ellie, if you're starting work at 9, you need to give yourself more than 5 minutes. Like, she'll literally 8:55.
But like, I'm this person,
roll out of bed, go downstairs and log on.
If I have to be somewhere at like 9 o'clock, I'm up at 7, I'm up at 6:30. I'm like, doing my morning routine, and like, your morning routine doesn't have to be extravagant. Like, see all this, you have to read 10 pages of a book, you have to meditate for half an hour, you have to do, like, no, you don't.
Climb a mountain, come back down.
Like, honestly, that's unrealistic, and that's why I think people get scared to work on themselves, because there's so much shit out there that it's like, you have to do 100 things at once. My morning routine, like, very simple. I go downstairs, I make a cup of coffee, I get back into bed with a cup of coffee, and I read a few pages of a book, or I meditate. I do one or the other. I don't do both every day, like, no. But like, it's that half an hour where I just have time to just be. And then the rest of my day, like, is honestly amazing. And the days I don't have time to just sit with myself, those days go tits up. Because you're setting the tone the minute you wake up, that you're in a rush, that you feel disorganised, that your head's all over the gaff. Like, then, your day is literally going to be a pile of shit, like, do you know?
But that's what my mom's going to laugh when she listens to this, because my room was a tip before I left. Like, I'm talking, like, she would walk in and she'd be like, Kelsey, just please clean. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I'm trying. But if my mind is still messy, my room is still messy. What was your excuse?
My excuse was, I was like, I'm moving country, I'm trying to get all my clothes organised. Like,
when in reality you're just worried.
My head was fucking wrecked. Like, I was literally like a shell of a human before I came over here, because I took too much on. Like, I was doing so much shit before I came out over. I was taking on so much shit before I came over here that like I wasn't looking after myself. The self-care flopped, and then I felt like shit. So
But then you called yourself out on your shit.
Exactly.
And you got back on it.
And that's what it is. It's like, I hate, like, I don't like when, like, I'm really happy, and I'm very glad that I'm really happy and that I've got to this point, but I have shit days as well. And like, I'll be the first person to say that. It's like, I have my shit days, I have my shit moments, but like, I know how to pull myself out of it now because I've done that work, do you know?
Yeah, we had a good hug yesterday because Micha was a bit homesick.
Oh, do you know what? Not Ireland. I'm sorry. No.
I'll agree with you on that one.
I just really fucking missed my dog yesterday. And my niece, like, I was sitting there and I was like, my niece is going to be, like, she is so big. We call her Brucey. We call her Big Brucey at home. Like, she's 2 months old and she looks about 6 months old. And I'm like, she's going to be a whole ass human when I get home. Like,
whole ass human.
She won't be, but she will. So I literally, like, yesterday was just like, I miss family, like.
Yeah.
But again, called myself out on my shit, and I just dealt with it. Like, you know, I would rather miss people at home than be at home.
Yeah.
Because my life was not going anywhere at home, and my business, like, everything was suffering. You know, like, had no creative flow. I didn't even want, like, I'm so passionate about my job, but I didn't even want to work anymore. I was just like, I don't even like this. Like, I was doubting if I even wanted to do what I was doing because I was just, like, stuck, do you know? And I think everyone has been there, that you're like, what am I actually doing with my life? And then the minute I got here, I was like, that flame reignited. So I'm like, I will take being homesick over actually being at home any day. And I'm sorry to my family for that.
I know, but I'm the same. Like, I obviously miss my family so much, but my, like, to be honest with you, they all like ring me and they're like, I miss you, and when are you coming home, and this, that and the other. And I'm like, they want the Kelsey I am here at home, and I just can't be that at home. Like, the absolute gratitude I have for the world here, the like space I have to grow, the people I have around me, the like inspiration I get on the daily, like, that suffers at home. And when I eventually go home to visit, like, I want to be able to say, like, okay, this is a temporary thing. I'll get to catch up with my family. I'll get to give them all hugs, and I'll get to like feel that love. But I can't be who I am here in Ireland, and that doesn't come down to me being closed-minded. But there's just like a fine line.
It's so hard to put your finger on what it is. Cause like, I always, like,
it's like musty air in Ireland versus fresh air
with
here.
Me,
like,
it was like, I always said, like, I'll be happy no matter where I go, and I am. Like, I am really happy in Ireland. Like, I do love Ireland. Like, I love home, but it was only when I actually left that I was like, there's so much more to me than what I thought there was.
And that doesn't necessarily mean for everyone that they need to leave Ireland to find that.
Because,
but we were talking about this last night. If you go looking for what you want to achieve in yourself, you will find it. Yeah. Because everyone's like, oh, out in Bali, it's a great place to go and work on yourself. Yes, box ticked. But there's so many things that you can do in Ireland for like the same outcome.
And you could come out here, or you could come to any country, like, and this is what I said before I left, like, I was like, I'm either going to go here and realise that I absolutely love it and I want to settle somewhere that's not in Ireland, or I'm going to go here and be like, do you know what, I actually love Ireland and I want to stay there, I want to go home. But either way, I was winning, because I know what I want by the end of it, you know. Whether it's what I thought I wanted or not, I'm still going to know. Like, I'll still know by the time I'm going home whether that's going to be permanent or temporary, like, you know, and I'm still figuring it out, like. Yeah.
So you can go looking for that step to growth, or you can just apply for coaching with both of us, and we'll help you on that journey. So I will leave links to Micha's Instagram and everything in the description, and if anyone wants to reach out and talk about anything in regards to what we spoke about today, please do. Our DMs are always open. I know Micha, so she's going to say the exact same. Like, 100%. Our coaching approach is very, very similar. We want the best for our clients. We want you to grow. We want you to be self-sufficient. Like, we were talking about this yesterday, that our business plan is actually a very
Oh,
shit
our
one.
business plan is the shittest business plan
So
ever.
shit, because
I'm like, you say the same to your clients. I'm like, I want you to come and leave.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
I don't want you at my hip for the rest of your life.
I know, because with coaching sometimes they'll like try to like reset goals, and that's brilliant to always be striving for something, but ultimately myself and Micha want our clients to be able to turn around and say, right, we have, you know,
Achieve
all the
those
tools.
goals yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We be self-sufficient enough to go off, spread your wings, and, you know, be able to support yourself.
Be a butterfly.
Be a butterfly.
Be a butterfly.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
100%. Do you have anything to add before we wrap it up?
No, just thank you for having me. I actually like appreciate this so much because you know me, I ramble forever about all of this sort of stuff. I'm in like this is my jam. So I actually loved doing this.
But this is like one of the reasons you said this as well. But one of the reasons I started this podcast, I feel like I've so much to share. I feel like I've so much to say, and people need to hear it, because in Ireland it's very close-minded and it's very just like structure, whereas there's so much more to life than just how you look and all the things we get wrapped up in back in Ireland and in most of the world as well. So we're here to just have open conversations with open people, and Micha is one of those people, hence why I had her on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
But yes, thank you all so much for listening. As I said, if you have anything you want to speak about, please reach out to either myself or Micha. I'll leave all of our links in the description below, and I'll see you next week for another episode. Thank you.